We are going to try and make a little doughy guy. So the little doughy guys have a little bit of a history for us at UCCS because I come from Switzerland and grew up with these little doughy guys. They also are called Grittibänz, and they are made on St. Nicholas Day, which is December 6th, and that's today. It's mostly a tradition that kind of lingers on in Europe, especially in Switzerland, with children and families baking on the 6th of December. And they make all sorts of creatures. And in my time here in the US, I've always integrated them in some way because they are fun to make. And if we do use a nice whole grain flour, we can also make a pretty delicious breakfast doughy guy. It could be a little crinkle or some other shape. And that's what we're going to try this year, rather than making the same doughy guy every year. So your recipe looks like this. Oh no, actually not. I had it on the phone, but you're going to get a recipe, and it'll be for a smaller quantity, about 4 of those little doughy guys. I like to make them in larger quantities so that I have dough for a lot of different things. So this is basically just a simple yeasted dough that is made with a little bit of honey, a little sweetener, and some butter. And I will add a little bit of California olive oil as well. And then for decoration, we typically add some egg glaze on top so they are nice and shiny, and use nuts and raisins, but anything really else can be added too. So in this situation now, we're going to start our dough with 8 cups of flour. Actually, I'm going to have 8. So right now I have 2, 4, 6. And the last bit is 8 and a little bit more, but I'll keep it at 8 and keep the rest of the flour for handling the dough. And I'm actually using a sourdough starter rather than yeast. So right now I have that in here. We have 2 sticks of butter melted. So I'm just going to add that into the mix. And really for that amount, I will need about a ladle of olive oil. So I'm going to use that. Why do I use olive oil? Well, I just don't have as much butter. And I like the flavor of olive oil in these baked goods. And then we're going to use about 3 tablespoons of honey. This is about 1.5 right here. And another 1.5. And that will give a nice sweetness to the dough. Your recipe, just a reminder, will look a little different. And then we have about 2 teaspoons for your amount, and about double that for me. So the only other thing that I'm missing now is, instead of using milk, I will use water, because I do have a sourdough starter. So I'm going to add about 3/4 or about half of the water for flour. So in your situation, it's going to be a little bit different, because you will probably use milk and follow that recipe a little bit more than I am. But I'm just mixing now this dough together. You see it there. The flour that I use is a Pueblo white wheat. We grow this on our farm, and it is a very hard winter wheat, but it's white, so the color will be nice and golden for these doughy guys. It actually comes together quite easily already. So it's going to get a little sticky because I have to add the starter and then let it rest for about 4 hours. So we'll come back to it. When you use yeast, you don't have to do that. You have about a maximum of 1 hour for the dough to rest. Okay, so I have a pretty nice mass here. I'm going to go to my starter now and bring that over. And this is a starter that was made into from a starter into a levain, which means a pre-ferment. And I'll just add about 2 good handfuls of that. And this takes care really of the flavor from milk and is also a nice leavening agent. So in about 4 hours or so, as I'm treating it every hour or 2 hours, bringing it together, this will be a very nice and somewhat fluffy dough. Probably not as fluffy as with yeast. The nice thing when you use sourdough, it gives a special flavor to your baked goods. So these little doughy guys or crinkles or whatever we're going to make with them are going to be very flavorful. As with all, bread baking, it's really important that the dough doesn't get too dry. So that's just kind of at the discretion of the baker to add more water, but not too much. So we are losing the ability to shape these little doughy guys, right? That's really important for this recipe. Coming together pretty nice. Of course, you could add some spices to this, like cardamom or saffron. That would be the little saffron buns that are made in Sweden for Santa Lucia, another holiday in December that's quite unique. I'm going to add just a little bit of water and work it a little bit longer. This feels pretty good. And for sourdoughs to work perfectly, we need to have a room temperature of about 72 degrees. Right now in my farmhouse here in Avondale, it's still a little bit cold, so it may take definitely a few hours, but we just started a fire and that should definitely help in getting the temperature up. So with these doughs, especially if you're using a sourdough starter, come back to it every hour and start to stretch that dough so that the gluten really develops and we'll get a nice and easy dough to work. And I always like to use these round bowls because I can just simply turn the bowl around and keep working it. So now we have a pretty big, nice, soft dough. For you, that's much smaller, the amount, compared to mine. But it should also be soft, and with yeast, with the dry yeast, it should have doubled in volume. So my dough here, I'm going to work it for a moment, and you can do the same with your dough, just to give it a couple of folds. And I have two incredible helpers tonight. We are here at the farm in Pueblo County, Hobson-Meyer Farm. And so I have two helpers, and I'm going to divide this piece into 3 different parts. So you can do whatever you like at home, but definitely get some helpers who can work with you, because it's kind of fun. So I will retain one, and then we'll get each assistant a little bit of dough. This piece, or 1/3, is in your situation with your recipe probably good for one doughy guy or Grittibänz. That's what we're making. For this piece, I can probably safely make 2 big ones or 3 small ones, but I'm going to just divide this now in half and start with 1. So when you make these doughy guys, there's really no rule at all. You can make them as fun as you like. You can make any type of shape. You can make turtles. You can make dogs or cats. I'm just going to show you the first one. You want to make a little indent for the head. And one thing that you need to have on your table is just a knife, so you can cut out some of these extremities. And then from here, once you have these cutouts, you can really shape them however you like. Doughy guys can be runners, or they can be they can make any type of movement. This would be already finished, finished product. It's pretty easy. And then you can decorate with whatever you have in your kitchen. So for example, you could press in some almonds as hands and maybe a couple of almonds as a shirt. And then I'll take 2 blueberries here and make eyes. And maybe another almond, smile. And 2 feet. And here you got your doughy guy. We are here at the farmhouse, Hops and Meyer Farms. We are in Pueblo County, and we cook all the time and bake all the time. So doughy guys should not be a surprise. This one here comes from Jen Dirty, who is our prime farm worker. Hello. Coming along perfectly. We are pretty much ready to put them into the oven. Look at these. We have 1 tray of animals and 1 tray of humans. Noticing that and recognizing that we must live with the animals and the plants. These Grittibänz, they are going to be in the oven for 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes at 375. So I'm going to put the first ones in now and then show you the end result. Our little doughy guys are out now from the oven. You can see how cool they look. Some got browned a little bit more than the others, but happy campers.